Hello, this is Rod from Unfinished Furniture of Wilmington. Today in our video we want to go through and discuss with you the advantages and disadvantages of finishing items that are assembled, partially assembled, and completely disassembled, and what's going to be the most appropriate, what's going to be the easiest for you. Today we're going to go ahead and start with our first item, which is going to be a bookcase. This one here comes disassembled, but should you finish it assembled, disassembled, it will depend on your space and area that you have, but something like this, I would more than likely go through and recommend that you finish this one assembled. And here, I'll go ahead and I'll show you why. Go ahead and remove the shelves here real quick for you. Show you. Utilizing a small bookcase here, but this works well for even a big bookcase, let's say a 36 by 84 or anything else that is large. If you can elevate your work and have it flat on its back, I will tell you, if you're standing and your back is straight, items are at eye level, when you're going ahead and working on it, you're going to be more relaxed. It'll be somewhat therapeutic, believe it or not, as you're doing it, and you're able to go through and work both the inside and outside of this. So I mean, with the brush you can work the inside of the bookcase, you can work all in up over here, and then you can work your way to the front and then also do the sides at the same time. It's always important to go through and work from the inside and then back towards your body so you're not wearing anything. But again, I'm standing here, I'm straight, I've got this elevated up on a workbench. You can do the same thing on a pair of sawhorses, but again, this item comes disassembled. We're choosing to go through and finish this one assembled. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. And of course, the shelves you can do separate on a separate workbench, or once this is dry, move this and then move the shelves up over here. So this is an example of what I would recommend finishing completely assembled. We showed you the bookcase. That one comes disassembled. I recommend finishing that one assembled. We have our chairs, our Parawood chairs that we sell online. I'm going to tell you on something like this, I would tell you to do it partially assembled. As you can see here, this one is completely assembled. It's very, very difficult to kind of get back here in the nooks and crannies or underneath. So we always recommend, with the seat off, this particular model here, it has 4 pocket screws holding the seat on, and it just makes things a little bit easier. We always recommend, whenever you're finishing, you want to work the furthest part away from your body and then work back towards you. Chair like this, again, elevate your work. It's key, it's crucial. You can always go through and work the underside of the chair if need be. Again, going through doing that, and then when you need to, you can always flip it back on over and then you can finish. Biggest mistake I see people do is they'll go through and they'll try to get the biggest, flattest area first. So they'll immediately start on this, work their way down, and then as they start going through, they'll do the outside, and then they need to do the inside, and they wear it all over their body. Again, work the furthest part away, back towards you, and again, having the seat go through, put this on some paint cans if you want to, and you can go through and you can wipe completely off, go all the way around, and again, have a nice clean finish. If you're going to go through and do a two-tone finish, let's say this was in one color, this was in another, again, you can get those nice, clean, crisp lines, and you don't have to worry about masking or taping anything off. And again, I have the same model here, I just happen to have it finished. I just want to be able to illustrate, again, when you're going through and doing the chair completely assembled, you're able to get back here into all the nooks and crannies, have everything finished. And then when you do a contrasting color on the seat, again, you don't have to worry about masking anything off. Those lines look clean, crisp, and professional. So again, this is an example where I would tell you to do something partially assembled. Take off what you can, unlike the bookcase that's completely assembled. Next, I'm going to go through and show you something that I would recommend going through and doing completely disassembled. Now I want to go ahead and talk to you about a piece that I would recommend certainly doing disassembled as far as a finishing project. This particular model here comes to us flat in a box, legs are off, bottom shelf is off, the apron is attached to the top. If you were to do this piece finished, again, as you're bringing that brush in, And going across the skirt, you have an area where you can get buildup and up over here. Our bottom shelf is held on with the brackets, but this particular one here, you can kind of see, especially with the gap in the shelf, if we were to go through and finish up and down and over, you'd see that little gap up over there. You may have an area of unfinished wood that you just can't access or get to. Much like the seat in the prior portion of the video, if you're going through and doing this bottom shelf, we'd be impacting here, you'd have a buildup of paint, much like the seat on the chair frame. So this particular one, I'm gonna actually go through and finish for you. We're gonna go ahead and take it out of the box. I'll show you the parts and pieces, and then I'll get it sanded, and then we'll go through and we'll start the video from there. We're gonna wind up painting it in some milk paint by General Finishes, and then we're gonna wind up putting a clear coat over the top of it, but we're gonna do a two-tone finish where we're gonna do that for our top. So let me go ahead and I'll take this out of the box, show you the parts and pieces. We've got our hardware kit, instructions, and this is what to expect when you go through and order online. It is packaged quite well, wrapped up in the corrugated as well as foam to mitigate any damage. We have our legs on the side here that we'll have to wind up taking out. We have our top, and this is just a spacer in there to go through and keep anything from getting damaged. So, one of our other videos that we had put on, the importance of going through and sanding and prepping your project. I do recommend watching that video first, only because you never want to go through, take anything right out of the box and immediately start finishing. I have an example of what to do, what not to do, and it is filled with good information, just so you don't get disappointed. But we'll go through these out, get these sanded, and then I will go through and instruct you from there. Okay. Just kind of looking and just seeing if there's anything, any imperfections, because we're going to wind up putting a clear coat on this, but there's nothing on there, so we're good. Now that we have everything sanded and prepped, we're going to go through and start our painting and sanding process. Again, having your work spread out, if you can elevate it, it makes life a lot easier. Also, I want to show you a trick as far as doing this disassembled, utilizing some of the hardware, but let me move some of this out of the way and I will go through and do that here first. So, painting a leg, you never really want to go through and paint and then kind of roll it and roll it and roll it. You always have drips and runs. Good idea with this. Insert that in there, and now you have a handle. So you can kind of lay it down on your workbench. You can go through and then go through and start to paint all the sides, and then you have a convenient way of hanging it up on something, anything that you may have that you can just kind of kick it off to the side and suspend it. Sometimes people will put up some rope, sometimes people will put up some string, or you can even go through and lay it across a trash can. But go ahead and get started. Again, painting this way, we're not going through and having it sit on the table. We have it on this cloth, so this way we're not going to muck up our place. Also, with the leg being off, we don't have to worry about impacting the skirt of the table like we illustrated earlier. And don't be alarmed, this is self-priming, so if you don't get the entire surface coated in one coat, do keep in mind you'll be doing multiple coats on a project like this. The biggest key is just trying to go through, take your time, make sure there's no runs or any drips. Again, utilizing that bolt up over here, and hold on to it. Get all the surfaces coated. Check your edges, make sure there's no runs or any drips coming on down from those other sides. And we'll work on our last side here. And that's one leg done. Same thing with the leg. If you can elevate your work, make it a little bit easier. See how much nicer that is. The brush comes right off the edge of the project. You don't necessarily have to worry about hitting or impacting that leg. Give you nice, clean, crisp lines. Oftentimes, the bigger the project, the bigger the applicator. This is such a small table we can apply directly out of the can, but if you had a larger bookcase table, I would recommend taking the paint out of the can and putting it into a dish, so this way you can either put it on either with a larger applicator or even a foam roller, depending on the project that you're doing. Again, this is the first coat. We're just worried about going through and getting the product on here. Minimizing any brush strokes. Make sure we don't have any drips. Because again, we're going to follow up with at least one more coat, if not two. Got that on there, and then we'll go through it. Our edges. See if I can spin that without dropping it. But again, like we were talking about before, being able to get that inside edge, we wouldn't be able to do that if the table was assembled, and you would always have some of that raw wood showing. As we're painting this, I just want to also let you know, with any painting project, or staining project for that matter, you want to seal all surfaces on solid wood. So this particular table here, you're only going to see the top of the top, of course the top of that bottom shelf, but it's always important to put one, at least seal coat on the bottom of it. Real wood, you can sometimes be subject to moisture and humidity. If it gets into the wood but does not have a way of getting out, it could potentially crack or split on a glue joint. Way to minimize that is to actually seal all surfaces. Does that mean that you've got to finish it just as well on the bottom as you do on the top? Absolutely not, but you do have to at least get some sort of seal coat on it, just again to keep that wood from splitting or cracking due to changes in moisture and humidity. Okay, and that's that up over there. And again, we're going to wind up doing a two-tone finish. I'll just let that sit and dry. We'll move that a little bit later. This is a clear water-based polyurethane. That's stirred up. It's got a lot of solids in it. This is an excellent product. This happens to be a dead flat. This particular one looks almost like a wax finish by the time it's all said and done. It's got no sheen, no luster in it. A lot of nice flattening agents. So again, keeping the work elevated, you're going to see really no coloration difference on this. If you were going to apply a stain, you're going to see a drastic difference. We just wanted to go through and get something that would seal the wood, give it a nice patina that would go through and highlight that beautiful blue color that we have on the bottom. But again, you'll see just applying that to the top surface. This again is going to wind up soaking in. So this, because we don't have a stain color underneath, it's probably going to be, I would say at minimum 3 to 4 coats over the top. That first coat is going to wick right into the wood. Second is going to build up a little bit. Third and fourth are going to give it that nice low luster sheen that we're looking for. Water-based urethanes, they dry very quickly, so you've got to apply them liberally and try not to overbrush. Otherwise, you're going to wind up pulling the product. So once you get it on there, apply and move on. If you miss any, again, just a little bit of a light buffing in between coats, and you can always go ahead and catch it on the next coat. And now just to recap, we went over the value of finishing product completely assembled, partially disassembled, or 100% disassembled. Just remember, anytime that you finish, you always need time, space, and patience for any product. But I wanted you to at least think about taking things partially apart or completely apart, just to make your life a little bit easier, things that people don't often think about when they start tackling their own finishing product. Again, thank you for watching. This was Rod with Unfinished Furniture of Wilmington, your #1 source for solid wood furniture for every room in your home.